European Commissioner Phil Hogan and Michael Jackson, Managing Partner at Matheson, welcome to our interview on Brexit today, coming from the headquarters of the European Commission here at the Berlaymont, Brussels. So, Commissioner Hogan, 5 months on from the Brexit vote in June, what is the thinking now from Brussels with respect to the prospect of Britain departing the EU?
Well, we can only go on the lines of what the British Prime Minister has said, that Brexit is Brexit, and we have to prepare accordingly. So we're waiting for the British government to trigger the mechanism that commences the negotiations. They call it Article 50. So sooner that we see the triggering of this process, of course, we can get down to work. And the timeline involved is 2 years from the triggering of the process. And hopefully that this can happen in 2 years, and that we will have stability and certainty again between the United Kingdom and the European Union, and of course within the United Kingdom and the European Union. And this is the way that the process will work. So we have been given an indication that this process will commence at the end of March 2017.
Michael?
From our perspective, Liz, we are certainly seeing that UK-based business is now preparing for life post-Brexit. The speed at which they are preparing varies depending on the sector. It varies depending on factors like how important an EU passport is going to be to that business into the future, what the clients or customers are telling that business about their desire to deal with an EU entity, and how easy it is logistically to move the business from the UK into other centres. But certainly in the financial services space, we are seeing the passport as a critical factor, and we are seeing financial services already starting their applications for an EU regulated entity in Ireland or looking to expand their existing Irish operation.
Commissioner, can you tell us a little bit about the preparatory work which is being undertaken by the EU's chief negotiator for Brexit, Michel Barnier? What work has been undertaken already in preparation for what's to come?
Well, the way the negotiations will commence is that the European Commission has appointed a chief negotiator, as you rightly point out, Michel Barnier, and the Commission will do all of the various detailed work associated with the negotiations. But they have to respect and do so in the context of a mandate for those negotiations, which will be laid down by all of the 27 Prime Ministers of the European Union, in other words, the European Council. And ultimately, it will be the European Council will make the final decisions at the end of the 2-year process. And it will require the majority vote of the European Council and of the European Parliament for the approval of any document that ultimately will be presented by Mr. Barnier and his team. So he has been in a lot of capitals already, staking out the territory, and including in Dublin, and he is engaging this week as we speak with all of the member states and the various officials about their priorities in the context of any negotiations. And there's a task force established as well to support his work here in the Commission.
And we've mentioned the fact that it's anticipated 2-year negotiation period is provided for, massive amount of complexity. Do we think it's realistic that once the trigger goes off that it will be able to be done within a 2-year period?
Well, I suppose we are in uncharted waters. It's the first time an EU member has left the European Union, and it's the first major disentanglement since the Second World War within Europe. So it is certainly going to be a very complex process, but of course this is the challenge for the negotiators. So we'll have to wait and see how much progress can be made, or what is the negotiating criteria that will be laid down.
Of course, while the treaty provides for 2 years for the political process, the business community doesn't have the ability in many cases to wait for 2 years because of the logistics involved in applying for and obtaining a regulatory license if one is needed, the logistics in identifying property and agreeing terms of leases and so on, the logistics of hiring and moving people. So we are seeing businesses already start to implement their plans because clearly the uncertainty leaves them with no option but to assume that they will need an EU presence after that 2-year period.
And Commissioner Hogan, following on from that, could the May 2019 European parliamentary elections be impacted if the negotiation period goes beyond 2 years?
Yes, if the negotiations are not completed by the European elections in 2019, the United Kingdom, who have 73 members of the European Parliament at the moment, will be entitled to contest those elections. But we have to operate on the basis that the negotiations will be completed within the 2-year period. And of course, if that is the case, they will not be able to have members of the European Parliament. So it all depends on the speed of the negotiations.
Looking across the Atlantic now, what impact do you think the outcome of the presidential election will have on British exit plans?
Well, of course, people are, after listening to the presidential election campaign in the United States, they are, and all of the statements and policy positions that have been enunciated during that election, people are wondering about the future in terms of the relationship between the European Union and the United States. But of course, the United Kingdom are also looking at the relationship that they may have with the United States in that context. But you know, as you can see already, there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of what President-elect Donald Trump intends to do. He has changed his position on a number of issues since the elections were completed in the last few weeks. So I would say that it is important that people now would wait and see a little bit longer to see ultimately what will be the final policy position of the government in the United States, and how the members of Congress, who ultimately have to pass all of this legislation in Congress and in the Senate, will actually respond as well to some of the proposals that will emerge in due course. But foreign direct investment will continue to come to Ireland. The companies that are there will want to use the opportunity of being members of the European Union in a 500 million population market, access to the single market, and the well-trained, educated workforce that we have, English-speaking country, common law system that they're familiar with. These are all important factors that will continue to play towards Ireland being an attractive place to do business from the United States, and indeed as members of the European Union. I think there's great opportunities for Ireland in that context.
I completely agree that it's far too early to say what the effect of the outcome of the US election will actually be, but it's very clear that it has added another layer of uncertainty for US businesses who were already uncertain about what a Europe post-Brexit will look like. So I think it's really important now that Ireland continues to hold itself out as very much open to US investment, that Europe holds itself out and continues to hold itself out as a positive, business-friendly environment, and that we continue to attract the type of US investment that will help Ireland and Europe to grow into the future.
Related to that, what are the early indicators regarding the impact that President-elect Trump may have on US-EU relations?
Well, as you know, we have been involved with the United States and the European Union in trying to negotiate a trade agreement for the last number of years, and we've had intensive negotiations this year. The United States also have had agreement with the countries in the Trans-Pacific Rim around the world, the TPP negotiations, which are the subject to agreement of Congress as well. So there's a lot of talks have gone on. But of course, what we've seen in the election in the United States is the rhetoric about being anti-trade, and Mr. Trump has indicated that he will not sign these agreements or participate in these agreements. But Europe has to progress on the basis that he means what he says, and I expect that there will be an effort by him to follow through on those particular policy pronouncements. But this will give Europe an opportunity to pivot towards the East and to other parts of the world in order to take advantage of the vacuum that will be created from the fact that the United States are not getting involved in trade negotiations. And we are involved now at the moment in 15 different trade negotiations around the world, apart from the one in the United States. So the United States discussions will be parked for a little while, but we will continue to negotiate with countries like Japan, and we're at the moment implementing an agreement with Vietnam. And there are some examples of where the growing opportunities are for European business.
Michael?
I would hope that some of the rhetoric around trade and protectionism proves to be rhetoric, and that a sense prevails that both Europe and the US can work together in the interests of European and US business and the interests of the citizens of the European Union and the citizens of the US to engage in a fruitful trade relationship as we've had in the past, and as I think has benefited both continents.
And turning to Ireland, Commissioner Hogan, what are your views on Ireland's commitment to the EU and its future as the only English-speaking and common law jurisdiction once Britain exits the EU?
Well, I think this is a great opportunity for the Irish government and the Irish people to work together with the other 26 member states of the European Union, because Europe has been very beneficial economically and socially and culturally to all of the people of Ireland. And we now are in a great position, in my view, as an English-speaking country, as a member of the European Union, as a single member of the single market and involved in all of the positive benefits that has accrued to Ireland, that we are well placed now in order to take advantage of the new opportunities that will emerge in a post-Brexit situation. Of course, we have to manage the relationship that we have politically with the United Kingdom and the enormous trading relationships we have with the United Kingdom. And companies and indeed the government are introducing new policy initiatives in order to manage this particular process, particularly during the recent turbulence on the currency. So I think that there is very important that the Irish authorities understand that the decision will be made in Brussels, not in London, in relation to the outcome of these negotiations, and that we have to build alliances and build bridges with all of the other 26 member states to get the best possible deal for Ireland.
And Michael, your clients and what you're seeing on the market, how important is Ireland's commitment to the EU for them?
Absolutely vital. I think Ireland is in an amazing position now to act as the bridge between the UK and Europe and between Europe and the UK for the reasons that you've outlined. We're English speaking, we share many values and a common law system. And I think it's impossible to overestimate the level of disruption that post-Brexit planning is causing for businesses in the UK. And to the extent that you can minimise any of that disruption, that's very important. And so dealing in an environment which is English speaking, which has common legal principles, helps to minimise that disruption. And we're certainly seeing that from our clients who are recognising those advantages for Ireland.
And Commissioner Hogan, with respect to the major public policy and regulatory matters that have to be taken into account in Ireland in anticipation of a hard Brexit, what do you see are the major issues there for Ireland?
Well, I suppose President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, said recently that it's either a hard Brexit or no Brexit. But of course, as we know, Ireland has to manage this particular situation from the point of view of being closely linked with the United Kingdom, politically and economically, and also a very important member of the European Union. And Ireland will continue to be a member of the European Union, which is something we have to keep saying loudly, because sometimes members of the European Parliament who see our dependence on the UK certainly may get some impression that we may wish to leave as well. That is not the case, and that has to be said loudly and clearly by policy people and by the government and ministers. And secondly, of course, we have to look at how we can manage the short-term difficulties and challenges that we're going to have. And we see that in the agriculture and food area, in my responsibility. We see that with companies who have 40% of the trade on agriculture goes to the UK. So we are working closely with the Irish companies in the European Commission to see how we can manage the currency situation in the short term, but also what is the structure likely to be on the island of Ireland, where there's an enormous amount of agricultural and food activity, as well as other trading activity north and south. But I'm happy to say that there is an appreciation in the European Commission, and there's an appreciation by people that are involved in preparing for this process of the unique situation and set of circumstances that Ireland finds itself on the island of Ireland. Europe has invested a lot in the peace process, and certainly that is well recognised by all of the people in this House.
And Michael, on the financial services side, the regulatory side, what are some of the key matters that your clients are looking at in terms of as we move forward, as Britain comes out of the EU, with respect to Ireland financial services and financial services regulation?
The first thing to say is that the EU Financial Services Passport is absolutely critical to companies who want to offer financial services on a widespread basis across the EU. And clients of our clients, the customers of our clients, are telling them that that passport and the availability of that passport will be very important to them into the future. That means that our clients are planning to ensure that they will always have the certainty of a passport under EU regulation, and are establishing subsidiaries and preparing to move any operations that they traditionally passported out of the UK into other jurisdictions like Ireland. Ireland's advantage is that the central bank has huge experience in this area. They already regulate insurance and reinsurance activities, asset management activities, banking activities, trading and clearing activities, MiFID activities, the full range of financial services. So what they will be asked to do is nothing new. They will simply be asked to expand the scope of their existing activities.
On the financial services side, Ireland is already a significant gateway jurisdiction in terms of financial services and the financial services passport and passporting throughout the rest of the EU. Post-Brexit, how do you see that Ireland could further improve its financial services proposition?
Ireland is in a unique situation to present itself as the location for financial services. It has the same legal systems as the UK, but also it has the workforce with the experience, particularly in Dublin with the Financial Services Centre. And I think that many of the companies that may wish to have a footprint in the European Union will look very carefully at the experience of Dublin and indeed other locations around the country who have developed a cluster of financial services in their particular town or city. But hugely important, of course, is the regulatory environment and also the legal environment. And this will be a very detailed negotiation. But of course, Michel Barnier, the chief negotiator, is a former commissioner for the internal market. He understands these regulations, he understands the legal situation very well, and he also understands Ireland very well from the time that he was involved in the structural funds commissioner, and he was a Minister for Agriculture in France on a previous occasion as well. So I think I would be very hopeful that somebody like him will understand not just the problems of disentanglement that Ireland has to face with the United Kingdom and the trading relationship, equally the opportunity that Ireland can take advantage of with other major cities around the European Union as well. The bottom line is that foreign direct investment want to come to Ireland because they can take advantage of the single market and the European Union huge market that it presents. They're there to make money, they're there to take advantage of that market, and Ireland is in a good place to take the opportunities that will present itself, particularly in the financial services area.
And following on from that, Michael, financial services, regulation of financial services, obviously something you are so familiar with at Matheson through your work. Is there anything that's coming up right now with your financial services clients that we need to think about in Ireland in terms of our proposition and developing our financial services offering, enhancing it even more as we move forward?
Well, I think the Commissioner put his finger on it when he used those words, experience and opportunity, because I think there can be a tendency to underestimate the scale and the substance of the financial services activity that's already being carried on in Ireland, and the level of experience that both the workforce and the regulator have in dealing with EU regulation and sophisticated and complex financial services activities. So for me, the real thing that we need to do is to spread that message that Ireland has the experience, it has the regulatory environment that lends itself to availing of the opportunity that the Commissioner spoke about.
Matheson has established a dedicated sectorally targeted team to deal with the issues for Matheson's clients arising from Brexit. Is that the approach that you're seeing, Commissioner, with respect to the businesses you're meeting, that's what they want to see, and that's the approach that should be taken in terms of helping people through the issues that Brexit is throwing up now and as we move forward?
Well, whether you're a government or whether you're a law firm like Matheson's, you have to actually prepare your clients for what's likely to happen in the future. And the challenge, of course, for a company like Matheson's or any other company that specialises in this area, that you have uncertainty at the moment about the process and about the content of what is likely to emerge in any outcome of any negotiations in 2 years' time. So there will be a requirement to have people consistently and constantly updated in respect of the negotiations, and to give them the best possible information about the scenarios and the implications for each of those scenarios in the years ahead. So I don't envy the task, but it's certainly your clients will expect you to give the maximum possible information as it becomes available and to be able to assess that in their interest. But I think that there is equally a good opportunity for law firms like Matheson's to be able to take advantage of the new opportunities that will emerge post-Brexit as well. So there's two sides to the coin. There's managing the challenges at the moment for your clients, but also a potential for new clients in the future arising from the fact that many of companies that may be in the United Kingdom at the moment, or indeed in the United States, who wish to come to Europe may select Ireland as their preferred location. and of course, from an Irish point of view, that would be very welcome.
And following on from that, Michael, what was the thinking behind establishing and the approach to the Brexit Advisory Group at Matheson?
Well, the Commissioner's description of the challenges and the opportunities that Brexit presents for business and for law firms echoes our thinking behind the establishment of the Brexit Advisory Group. Our clients are facing an enormous range of issues across many of their different business lines in the post-Brexit environment. We believe that providing them with access to leading advisors with international experience in a range of areas like regulatory matters, real estate matters, employment law matters, EU law matters, being able to bring that together under one roof, continually keep them updated, continually predict for them as far as we can what way the tide is moving will be very important. And we certainly feel that our clients appreciate that and have started to really see the benefit of that.
And if I could just conclude by saying thank you to Commissioner Phil Hogan and to Michael Jackson for our Brexit interview today from Brussels.